So obviously, we've seen a lot of change in the last few weeks. And let me just preface by saying all this data is old now. We have two polls for you. One we did in the field in February and March, the other among Republicans in June. I desperately wish I could have been back in the field over the last 24 hours. And I'm happy to say Paradigm will be doing a new poll in the next few weeks of Democratic voters. That probably is the most interesting thing anyone could see. But all the same, with an issue like crypto, it is unlikely to see major data switch in a matter of days. So you pretty much get consistent good data over a few months. So, obviously the world is changing around us, but our sense is a lot of this information remains pretty actionable. I'm just going to keep trying to extemporaneously delay this until the information shows up. So let me just go from memory. The number one thing that we saw in our data is, first off, about 20% of American voters own crypto, either in the past or presently. That's been flat, more or less, for 2 to 3 years. Over the last few weeks, we have started to see an uptick for the first time. That's what our Republican-only poll showed. We began to see the number approach the high 20s among Republicans. This surprised me. The number one thing we all understand about crypto ownership is it skews young more than anything else. It skews non-white and skews male. So Republicans, at least historically, have been the party of older voters, of white voters, and somewhat men, but primarily those first two. That we're seeing growth among crypto ownership among Republicans speaks to the good work done, of course, by a lot of people in this room, as well as by BA, by CCI, by everybody, and how the Republican Party has moved from being open to crypto 4 or 5 years ago to increasingly unanimously pro-crypto. I'll just continue on. The other thing that most surprised us in this data is that we looked at who in our March poll had said they'd voted for Biden in the past, and we found, I think it was about a 5-point. All right. So see if I can't make this crystalline. All right. The first poll, 1,000 registered voters. It's online. We use public opinion strategies. They're a notable Republican pollster. Next slide. In our national numbers, this is now, I'll just skip over this. We found pretty much what everyone else finds. And for those of you who don't do polling, I will say, you might say, why are you polling this? Doesn't matter. We get polls for everything else. This is a check. 1 out of every 20 polls is bad. You don't have a baseline number to check against. There is no way to know whether you're getting a good sample or a garbage sample. This lets me say, okay, you guys are in the ballpark. I think this data is pretty much good. If we had not, and we found, say, that 45% of voters own crypto, or only 5%, that means that poll was bad. We need to get a refund or do it again. So as of March, we'll go next slide. What you'd expect, pretty much. Biden in trouble, Trump doing okay. Next slide. Again, this is crypto user, 19% of the electorate. You can see here, as of March, the skew is surprising. For men 18 to 54, we find about 40% on crypto. We've seen this bounce around. These are subcategories. Obviously, there's higher error bars. This was notable to me, though, because traditionally we've seen a drop-off in their 40s. In this data, it seems like we're beginning to see more men in their 40s and even early 50s on crypto. After that period, however, after 55, it drops like a rock. And this makes a lot of sense. Raise your hands here if you had the internet when you were in college. Pretty much unanimous. No one over 55 went to college with the internet in any significant fashion. Those are people who their entire childhood, their entire young adulthood was non-digital. When I was at the CFTC in 2015 for Sharon Bowen, great commissioner, be a great add to a Kamala Harris administration, she still edited documents by printing them out, doing red pen on them, and then scanning the back end. What she was used to, and she's never going to change. Other thing I would note here, 30% of African Americans and all minorities own crypto. This really does skew to non-whites. To some extent, this is a function of age. The non-white community is younger than the white community in America because of demographics, immigration, health issues, what have you. But it is very clear and significant. Next slide. You can see, however, that a lot of people who still not interested. Number one group that does not own and does not want to own, women over 65, everyone over 65, you're 70%. In some ways, this is a problem. Older voters skew higher propensity. You want to have older voters generally if you have any demographic, but there's one real problem with them. They are demographically time limited. At some point, anybody over 60 in the next 50 years is going to die. Mathematically, the oldest person in the world history we know of lived to 122. Almost nobody else, I think, has been to 120. If you have your opposition built among older voters, that is a short-term significant problem, but it becomes one that goes away over time. The last industry in tech that really faced this was video games. Video games were significantly a young area. Even staffers, when I was a young counsel, didn't play video games as kids. When Nintendo released the Brain Age video game on their DS in 2004, 2005, that unlocked senior citizens first time. The number one way to solve those political problems is get senior citizens to start using it. Good luck. Very hard problem, maybe impossible. Next slide. We're going to have to keep jumping here. I'm going too slowly for everybody. Postgraduates own the least amount of cryptocurrency we found. That's another area that's surprising. This is an issue for staffing because a lot of staffers in DC don't have postgraduate degrees. Next slide. The ETFs made a huge impact. We were shocked at how many people were interested in buying the Bitcoin ETFs. This again is late February. This is literally weeks after the process began, before Ether even was seen as probable in DC. And it is really unlocked. You want to renote, easiest way to get senior citizens in crypto is probably an ETF. That probably is the number one way. Next slide. Ownership's bigger than we think. I keep saying this a lot. People are like, oh, you guys, I own crypto, but so what? I own a lot of things. I have a baseball card at home. Well, 7% of voters, not of people who own crypto, but voters own more than 1,000 crypto. That might not seem like a lot. Only 32% of all voters own stocks. Think about that. About half of all voters don't own any stocks. When you get this number, up to 10%, up to 15%, now you are influencing people at the very core of their financial being. That's what makes someone a single issue voter, when it's not true for a lot of other topics. This goes to their entire livelihoods. And once you get the number high enough, $1,000 or certainly 10,000, they are likely to be a single issue crypto voter. Next slide. How much time have I got? Paul, 0 seconds. All right. Voters remain skeptical of crypto. I mean, this is perhaps unsurprising. People own crypto like it. The idea that people own crypto and don't like it, I mean, obviously you have some people who own it and are unfavorable, which is notable. But by and large, people who own crypto are pro and people who don't are skeptical. That's not surprising for in tech, but it is real. Next slide. Especially white Democrats. That is the number one issue area. One thing that may be surprising is that, per the data we saw above, white Democrats are a group that skews older. So you already are hitting it by age, but you also have postgraduate degrees. I mean, like, the worst kind of voter on crypto would be a person over 70, male or female, postgraduate degree, and generally someone of, it doesn't matter income. Who does this sound like? Members of Congress, traditionally. That's part of the problem. Who does it also sound like? Joe Biden. Who does it not sound like? Any non-white major elected Democrat. It should not be surprising to people that, the blessed Christian Gillibrand aside, a lot of our allies in Congress are younger, are non-white, and we get surprising support from non-white older Democrats like Gregory Meeks, as we might expect. Next slide. All right. Favorable views of crypto. This is why everyone likes it. Value increasing, the future. People, this is why they like it. Next slide. Negative views. Don't understand it. Volatile, unstable, risky. Next slide. Seniors continue to be, we can skip over this. We've already covered this. Again, I did not realize I only had a few minutes. Next slide. People think that's still here to stay. Next slide, please. We got some significant doubt over 23 versus 24. Next slide. All right. This is very notable. I've harped on this in the past. We asked for recalled vote in terms of who people think they remember voting for. And what we found is that about 43% of voters recalled voted for Biden, and 45% voted for Biden, 41% for Trump overall. And Biden was leading among overall voters. I think crypto voters, even 43% recall voting for Biden. Next slide. But now, this was really shocking to us in March. Biden and Trump were tied among non-owners in March. This has been pretty consistent over the year up to the debate. As of March, owners had skewed to Trump 40 to 39. I don't think this is entirely crypto. I think it is very much connected to crypto. Every one of Biden's major issues was around young voters and non-white voters. Who owns crypto? Young and non-white voters. I don't think this is only that they voted against Biden because of crypto. I do think it's significant evidence that at the very least, the same thing that makes someone interested in crypto made them anti-Biden. This is, in fact, and you can, I'm happy to say this one is on our Twitter page and on our account. So don't, you can take photos. We also just go download it. There is something here that is profound that we and nobody else has figured out what's going on. I think it's related to alienation. Whoever figures out why this shift happened exactly and the role of crypto is going to be a political god in this community and maybe in the country. Next slide. All right. People are frustrated. Next slide. Next. And then finally, we have the Republican poll. I don't want to belabor this because this is about Republicans. Next, go slide forward. Forward. Again, I had too many slides. 28% of Republicans, this is as of June, say they've owned crypto previously or currently. I was pretty surprised by this because that's a big uptick. We previously seen the number more around 20%. This does indicate that we're seeing a burst of new activity in the wake of ETFs and the wake of price increases. I'm very curious to see if this is true equally for Democrats in a few weeks. Next slide. Again, it still skews young and non-white among Republicans, which is a good and a bad thing because the percent of Democrats that's non-white and young is much higher than the percent of Republicans. But these are voters the Republicans desperately want. The Republican Party understands that the future of the country, even if you dropped immigration to zero, is one of diversity. The last generation or year birth where whites were a majority in this country was around 2013. Most births since then have been non-white births. If you're a party built for American politics in 2030s that is dependent largely on white voters, you are asking to lose an election. This is why a lot of Republican members tell us they find crypto appealing. They see this as a route to getting non-white voters and young voters. Next slide. We think it's going to keep growing. I was pretty happy to see 13% of Republicans who've never owned crypto think they're going to buy this year. Next slide. That's over 6 months. Not exactly a long time horizon. Republicans who own crypto own a lot of it. 40% of Republican crypto owners own more than 45,000 or more. That I think was pretty surprising to me because it shows people are really, accumulating. Next slide. They're pretty positive, more positive than negative, which is the first time we've really seen that. Next slide. This shows you Republicans are following the views of the industry as well as their leaders. This widens, in fact, plus 12 among men, plus 42 among Republican voters under 40, and plus 27 among non-white Republicans. Plus 42, that's a 70-30 margin. If you're a Republican under 40, you're like, crypto, I don't like crypto. I love crypto. Next slide. Republicans want Congress to take action. This is obvious, like calling the sky blue. Next slide. But it also, this was pretty shocking to us. We wrote on this. Crypto helps persuade never Trump Republicans to vote for Trump. Of 13%, learning that Trump expressed support for cryptocurrency and keeping the crypto industry in the US made 87%, made people more likely to vote for Trump. Basically, it helped convert a small number of never Trump Republicans toward Trump. I was shocked to see this. That's exactly what Trump's team sees in this industry. Next slide. And then, as before, 40% Republicans own any stocks. Among Republicans, notably, crypto ownership currently was strongest in those graduate degrees. So it does suggest to me, and we're going to see how this goes in a few days, that the worst group for us is graduate holders who are Democrats, which is a real problem as long as they are the dominant staffing force among Democratic politics. Next slide. It's probably the end of it. All right, so that's everything. We're going to be doing another one of these polls, as I say, in a few weeks. Frankly, probably going into the field the next 24 hours for Democrats. We're asking a bunch of new questions. I delayed on this in part because it's the convention, but also in part because I wanted to make sure we had the right candidates. And then we're going to do another one, I think, sometime this fall. Thank you, everybody.